So for all those people that missed the webinar or can't get online, we did have some issues with the server. This is just a sample of what we were talking about, what I was talking about on the webinar, and just a sample of things to come. As I said in the email, it's really important that you contribute in order to make it work for you. Okay, enjoy.
I'm actually teaching at the same time that I'm at uni, so yeah, it's very useful.
Yeah. So what sort of things what sort of issues are you coming across? What sort of things are you having?
Well, my students are quite well behaved. Well, it sort of changes because I have 2 lessons, and my second one, I have a class with Down syndrome girls. So one of them, she's very committed and she loves to dance and she just knows it all. But then the other girl, she kind of drops the energy a few times, and sometimes she does the whole class, but other times she just doesn't want to do it and stops dancing. And it's a bit hard to deal with that because even though she has a helper, I think it's because she's tired, and because they get tired quite easily.
Does she so it's an integrated workshop?
It's a unusual class that we have. It's just once per week, and it's kind of a cheerleading thing that I teach. Yeah.
And does she is it always the kind of same point in class where she kind of starts to wane, or is it different times?
Yeah, it depends, because sometimes she does the whole class and she doesn't like show any problems. I think because I started teaching around October, and close to Christmas she didn't have any of those crises. So she wasn't that, because she was used to exercising. And I think because we had a huge break and then coming back to exercising, she was quite tired and I got the crisis again. But this time a bit more, increased. Yeah.
And how does it affect the class and you?
Well, it does affect a bit, because then I kind of draw my attention to her, and then the other girl kind of gets left out, and and then it affects in the way that I'm not sure how to deal with the situation and how to bring her up, because of course she having special needs, it's a bit more difficult, and it's different to just having a child that you can just stop focusing on them, and then they'll sort of come because you don't really care. It's not that you don't care, but you kind of take the attention away from them because you know that sometimes they just want attention. So whereas when I'm with her, I feel a bit having more trouble to deal with the situation because she has special needs.
So at the beginning of each class, do you give a kind of a map of where you want to get to by the end of the class?
Usually I do say what I'd like to do with them. Or sometimes because they already kind of know, because what's going to happen, because we're now preparing for a show. So we just go through the routines that we already have. And so the goal is just to go over the routines.
So with her assistant, her helper, is her assistant in the room all the time?
Yeah, she is.
And
No, I was just going to say that she dances with her as well. Usually. Yeah.
So is she actively trying to get her to join in again when she sits?
Yeah, she does. The last time it happened, she was trying to get her to come back and just telling her finding ways to get her to join.
So, and I know you kind of give a general, just from what you said, you give a kind of a general outline of the class, but could you give her something specific in stages that you want her to achieve? So not that you should single her out, but just maybe have have a discussion before and say, this is, I know, and just kind of be understanding that if you need to sit out, then sit out. Because the reason why I say this is because when I used to work at Dance United, not that people had special needs in the same way, people actively would try and disrupt the class. And whereas in most dance classes or in school, teachers will say, stop talking, stop messing about, etc., etc. But we kind of understood that each of the people, they're not necessarily engaged in education, but they have their ways of behavior, their ways of pulling focus, their ways of dealing with stress. I'm not saying that she's having to deal with those things. It's just, like you say, maybe just tiredness.
Yeah.
But kind of saying our journey in the class was always to keep the class going. And if this person that needed attention, we'd bring a support worker out, that they'd leave the class and they'd get that attention. Then the objective was always just to come back in when you're ready. But we would never stop the class progressing. So what that kind of did for them is like, well, they'd leave the class, but the whole, the train's leaving without them, sort of thing. And rather than going out to them, somebody else will deal with that. Where you're lucky in the sense that she has an assistant working with her, and whether you can talk to the assistant and I think you probably have, and just kind of have this agreement that if she's out for more than 5 minutes, she's just going to miss too much stuff. So the objective is to try and get her in with 5 minutes, but you don't mind her going out if she needs that time and that time to rebuild, refuel, and refocus. Literally let her leave the studio.
It does sound like,
because if she's a lot of the time, if they're still in the studio, they'll be even though you might be concentrating on the class, they're always there. They'll draw some of your energy, and the rest of the class will see that, and that's kind of upsets the balance. So remove her from the classroom, but it's not a punishment. Just be really clear with her assistant and the rest of the class that she has certain needs, and this is how we're going to kind of help her deal with them, so we can all move it. We can all work together. So allow her to leave the space, but it's not a cop out. She's not going out because she wants to skive. She's going out to regather herself so she can come back in. That's the only reason she's going out, is so she can come back in.
It does make sense, and it seems to be the wisest thing to do. And I mean, you have a lot of experience, so I mean,
you try it. There's lots of other kind of tips and tricks that we've tried. Just how, and I'm sure you do already, just kind of emphasize how important their role is, or their part is. And it's like, if you are going out, then we need you to come back in as soon as possible, so we can move forward as a group, because we want you're part of the group rather than it being individuals. Obviously we need you back in to be part of that group.
Also I remember that because in my first class I'm working with teenagers, so they're dealing with all their problems, and sometimes they come into class and they're a bit more fragile. And this once I had one of the girls almost crying, but then because the class is so small, it's harder for me, for example, to go to the side and just speak to her, because that would draw a lot of attention just to her and she could feel worse. So what I felt like is that she just wanted me to keep going with the class, not really acknowledging how she was feeling. I did speak to her in the end of the class, but as I had never experienced that before, I was trying to ask her just if she was okay, if she needed anything, if she needed to go out, and she was getting more emotional. So yeah, I don't know if the best option would be to just kind of keep going with the class without really trying to focus on the issue or to do something else.
It's difficult, isn't it, when you're by yourself and you're teaching and you have to deal with, like you say, keep the class going, but also deal with those other things. It's always a challenge. How do you start how do you begin the class? Do you begin and go straight into exercises or warm up? How do you start the class?
Yeah, usually I warm them up, but usually as soon as they arrive, I just ask how their day went, how their week went, and how they're feeling, how their body's feeling. And then I kind of tell them what I want to do until the end of the class with them, and then I start a warm up, which I kind of change. Sometimes I do a more fun thing, then sometimes I kind of mix contemporary kind of warm up with a fun thing, and then I go into the routines that they'll have to learn.
Okay. When you say, I know you said you start with the warm up. With a lot of the time, we always used to start the class with a circle. So we'd sit in a circle, and I'm sure when you said you asked people how they are, we'd start off with a circle, just kind of say go around, catch up with people, see as you say how they've been doing. But I suppose another thing that you might want to try is, if there's a equal number, or if not, just find somebody and just have, if you're in pairs, and one person from each pair just talks for a minute. The other person doesn't interrupt, and it's not a conversation, it's just them talking, and they can just talk about anything. A lot of the time a lot of time stuff does come up, or they'll just talk, and even if they sit in silence, they have to have 1 minute each. And it's a great thing for if stuff is on their mind, it kind of comes up straight away. And for you, as they're doing it, just try and have your ears open, and as you're walking around and just listening to the conversations, because it will kind of give you a little bit of a heads up of what's coming up next. If somebody is feeling a certain way, you can kind of be aware of it at the beginning, rather than kind of having to deal with it as the class is in motion. And sometimes you can have that circle, and then you can have a few games to kind of bring people into the class. But during those games, you might, if you've heard something, you might pull one of the people aside, who you heard, this girl in particular, and just say, are you going to be okay through the class? Are you going to be okay during the class, if anything? And just kind of gauge from her what she thinks she might need, or what they might need throughout the class. But obviously, you, as you said, trying to do it discreetly.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I don't know if it's how useful that will be, but I know we've tried it in the past, when people come in, and we can pick up stuff quite easily just from hearing them talk to each other. Yeah. There's things that they'll say to each other which they won't say to you.
Yeah. It does sound like a good way of getting them, even if it's just to get them to, if it's in silence, they will kind of they'll show kind of how they're feeling by doing that, I'm guessing.
It's just a way to to offload, and it's really odd, because even though it sounds a 1 minute doesn't sound very long, when you're a young person, because they talk quite quickly and they interject quite a lot. Having a minute just to speak to somebody it seems incredibly long, but it has a great effect in the sense that they kind of find things to talk about. They'll bring other things up, and it could be the most mundane thing. They might talk about EastEnders. It just gives them that 1 minute to kind of speak about what's on their mind, what's kind of at the forefront.
Okay. Yeah. Does sound like a good option. I'm only thinking about the fact that I also have it's just an hour long, the class. Okay. So yeah, but if it's just for 1 minute, I'm guessing it doesn't take that much.
I mean, you can take, you can take 30 seconds, but always try and have that kind of first 5 minutes of the class.
Yeah.
Just to prepare the class, because then you can talk about what you want to achieve, what we've done in the past, this is where we are, and which I'm sure you do. And I think 5 minutes, it's always, even though you do have an hour, I think having that 5 minute just to kind of boost everybody and bring everybody back into the room is part of the progression, really.
Yeah.
We had I had a question. She's not here. It's a lady named Rianne. She's a teacher as well. So I was gonna talk about that, and it might help you with stuff that comes up for you later. And she was asking. She's got quite a boy heavy class. There's like 20 boys, 10 girls.
Yeah,
it's quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's unusual to have more boys than girls in a class. But you're saying she's finding it difficult to work. They're finding it difficult to work with others, and they're tired. So a lot of them are tired, similar to what you're saying. Some have got SEN, special education needs, and delivering topic-based curriculum is challenging. She's got other year ones, and they lap it up. So I think what she's saying is that it's not 100% clear. I did want her to be here, but she did say she was going to be driving, might not be able to make it. What I'm picking up is that she's finding it difficult to engage and work with others. They're finding it difficult, but I'm not sure whether she meant the boys or the girls. And all that I was going to share was when we do a lot of the introduction exercises and the tasks, we disguise a lot of them in quite a lot of games. We play a lot of games just to kind of break down those barriers. We have a thing where it's the kind of general thing of people when they're moving around the room, just giving different instructions, freeze, stop, blah, blah, blah. But there's one thing that we do where we say, when we say number 3, get into groups of 3 as quick as you can. So we do, and every time I say a different number, you get into those different groups. So once you'll say 2s, then the next thing you'll say 3s, then you'll say 5s, 10s. So just keeping that going for a few times, and then the numbers that you want them to work in, say you want them to work in 4s, you shout 4s, they get into those groups of 4, and then you just set the next exercise. But again, that's still part of the game. When you're in the 4, okay, make contact with 2 different parts of your body or 2 other people in the group. That's kind of, I don't know, she might have done those already. You might know those tips and tricks already, but it's really trying to find a way to lead them into it that's more of a game. If they're having issues with working with each other, or they, sometimes you get people to walk around the space and they're just next to their friend all the time. But kind of gets them away from their friends, that they don't have to be joined at the hip.
I did. We had teaching module, and we had a person that was giving us that sort of tip as well, so that if we noticed that some students were a bit more chatty or a bit more badly behaved, we would use that kind of game so that we could put them separated. kind of, a way of putting people that would maybe disrupt the lesson separated, and then
I mean, is there any other challenges that you're facing that are either, kind of practical information, or where you'd like to make it into a game to address the challenge?
I'm not sure.
No, because we used to play, like I say, we used to devise games. We'd kind of have a blueprint of what the objective of it is, and kind of we'd have a way that we kind of design a game specifically for that issue.
Okay. Trying to think.
I mean, if you can't, that I'll probably do my next. I'll probably do my next one on literally on, devised games that, and just kind of share the blueprint that we use, and then looking at ways that we can address issues in the classroom.
I do have a friend, and I think she spoke to you. And she teaches small children.
Yeah.
And she kind of has a lot of trouble with them, because there's one of the kids that just doesn't want to stop, and he's moving around like constantly, and he just doesn't stop, and she can't really make him stop. And if she wants him to do something, he'll do it, but he'll just keep on doing it over and over again when she asked him to stop or she wants to move on. So would there be any kind of game or something that she could do to make him pay more attention or be more focused?
I mean, does he do it for... Well, I suppose that's a couple of things. Does he have any medical condition? Does he have attention ADHD or anything like that she knows about?
She doesn't know about it. She wasn't told of anything, but she might have it.
Okay, and is that, who did she get the information from? Did she get it from parents?
No, she doesn't really speak to her parents, so she just senses that he might kind of have that issue, but she's not sure about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think before she goes there, she can try lots of other things. There's a mirroring, mirroring exercise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that is quite good in the sense that she's not, then she'll kind of discover whether it's a thing, whether is it a he or a she? Sorry.
Is a he.
And then she'll discover whether it's him just disrupting the class, or literally he may need, he may have ADHD. But often that doesn't matter if you can find a way to work with it or they can control it. It's when it's in a classroom environment where it gets more challenging. It is challenging in the studio when you need people to stop, but going back to the idea of mirroring, because what that does, that kind of takes it away from the teacher being the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that thing where one person leads, one person follows, then they change around. But then there's the thing where nobody's leading and nobody's following, but they're both leading and both following.
Yeah.
Do you see? Do you know what I mean? Where one person initiates it and then somebody takes it over. And that what we've found, because that's quite meditative and quite slow, that really brings their focus into concentrating on movement. But then the person that's working with them is like, when the teacher can actually kind of initiate, okay, freeze. And then have different points where they can freeze. And we've found that works quite well with people that are that kind of are a bit hyper. We had I mean, some of the kind of just the stop go games we have stop jump run stop go jump clap. Have you played that before?
I don't think so.
So you start it off. You begin. There's the instruction is go, and people they can run. You can walk. You can run. Second, other instruction is stop. Obviously, that's a stop.
Yeah.
Other one is clap. Clap your hands. Then another one is jump.
Okay.
So you've got those all four. But what you then start to do is you change the instruction. So stop means go. Go means stop. Jump means clap, and clap means jump.
Yeah, that'll bring their attention a bit.
So it really focuses their attention on what. First of all, it's a challenge anyway doing it. But then when you switch the instructions, it's really focused on what you're saying, and then they have to kind of apply it to their body. And what we do is if they make a mistake like that.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, she'll appreciate it because yeah, she's quite new at it as well. So.
Okay. I mean, later on again, once I build up the people coming on, we'll do some visual ones like we did with the class, but it'll just be about about exercises because it isn't easy to kind of explain an exercise.
Yeah.
If you can see it, it's much easier.
Yeah. I mean, I just came up with another question. I don't know if you be able to help, but because my second class they have syndrome down. Their muscle tissues usually tends to be weaker than just in general. So I'd like to build their strength in a way, but at the same time, I'm worried that they can't do it because they're very fragile and their like bones and tendons and everything is more fragile. So I'm not sure about if there's any exercise that I shouldn't be doing with them.
I think you can only find out from them because they I'm sure they know their bodies quite well, and it's just I suppose finding out what, if anything, hurts, what their capabilities are. Again, doing things with games to help fitness.
Yeah.
Lots of games of tag and variations of tag. The cat and mouse. Have you ever played cat and mouse?
Yeah.
So we tended to do a lot of games which would build their condition, their stamina, and in class traveling. One of the traveling exercises we did was literally sprinting from corner to corner, and we wouldn't necessarily create a sequence. So they'd cross the room together, going one way, or the group another, and then they'd do it. We'd have a group in each corner, and they'd kind of go one after another, so they're just missing each other. And every week or every session, we'd increase the amount of times they'd cross. So it's a challenge, but it's also fun. You need to kind of make it fun to build their strength. But again, like you're saying, you're not sure about their weaknesses, but so just take it bit by bit by bit by bit, and just be really clear and allow them to tell you when something's not quite not feeling quite right.
Yeah, they usually tend to tell me sometimes their knees hurt or something like that, so I just kind of adapt the sort of exercises we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time sometimes they'll say stuff hurts if they don't necessarily want to do it, but there's not many people that don't want to play games.
Yeah,
people love playing games, and if there's a kind of health benefit, then make sure that you try and find some some health benefits in how you play the games.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off now.
Okay, yeah.
I hope that's been helpful.
Yeah, it was. It was really helpful. Thank you very much.
Good.